What's going on, guys? I'm back in the shop working on the Magnum a little bit. Figured it'd be a great time to go over a really cool project that I'm going to be covering here and there on the channel, and that is going to be this 1973 ROADRUNNER behind me. Let's get into it. Okay, so here it is, guys. This is going to be the car. I'm going to go over this thing pretty quick. There's a ton of questions you can ask. There's a ton of info on it, and I'm not going to be able to cover it all in an hour-long video. So I'm going to try to make this semi-short, give you just a brief build overview of what this thing has, you know, what it started as, some of the custom work that's gone into it, where it sits right now, what's next, and where it's going to go coming in the next couple of weeks and months. So getting right into it. Engine bay, where the business happens. This is going to be the main show. This is your 6.2 liter HEMI. It is a Hellcat Redeye engine. We still got the little protective tape on here. There it is right there, Hellcat with the red eye, super subtle. This is a crate motor from Dodge. It came ready to rock and roll. Ready to rock and roll is a very loose term because obviously there's a lot of things that need to be modified to get it to fit into something it is not supposed to go in. So there is some stuff that came on this engine that we already had to take off, that already didn't work, already didn't fit, which has definitely been a struggle considering this motor is so new and there's not a ton of aftermarket options for it. But that is a different story. So right now what you're looking at, basically this motor is in, it is bolted down, it is ready to rock and roll. It's not gonna move anywhere. The entire engine bay has been gutted before we put this in. I will pull the car up and show you the underside and suspension stuff here in a minute. The only thing stock left in this engine bay really is gonna be the brake booster, windshield wiper motor, and that's kinda it. That's it, yeah, no, that's literally it. Everything else has pretty much been gone. The steering column, suspension towers, shock tower, the whole thing. This, I guess this is still stock, this actual bar here, although it has been heavily modified to accept this fully custom radiator. So, Hellcat, 6.2 liter, Redeye engine, 808 horsepower. I don't know if it's gonna pump out more or pump out less when we're done with it, because some stuff is gonna be changed from the factory application. Okay, so aside from the motor, the chassis that this thing is in is going to be a 1973 Plymouth Satellite. This does have the ROADRUNNER package on it, which back then you could consider like the SRT8 package or something like that. It's just a higher trim model, basically. But the Satellite is a super cool car. It's like a really big muscle coupe car. This particular model with this front end and the rear end style, they didn't make it for a ton of years before they revamped it. So this is a really cool kind of Mopar car that you don't see a lot of, and you also don't see a lot of builds on. So this is going to be a really, really nice car when it's done. Really great package, all Mopar with the HEMI in it and everything. So going over the body just real quick, not a ton to cover. It is a stock body. It's straight. You know, we've went through and already done all the rough spots and made sure everything has been, you know, gone through and straight. It's primered. All the doors and everything work. Everything's there. The trim pieces and everything. We did pick this car up running, complete, and driving with stock motor, transmission, suspension, interior, everything. But the only thing to note on the exterior of the body so far is the hood, which is not on the car right now, is a ROADRUNNER hood. It's going to get the ROADRUNNER rear wing on the back. Factory goes right in there. And the bumpers, front and rear, and the valance are going to have been cut and tucked so far. So we started by doing a bunch of work right here. You can see where the bumper has been cut, sliced, shrunk, welded back together, just to get it to sit a little bit neater inside of the body rather than being super, super bulgy. A lot of these old cars actually have like literally like rubber bumpers on them, almost like bumper cars, just to keep it from getting damaged. But we're trying to get this to look just a little bit slimmer, so we're cutting and tucking the bumpers on them. We can see here we've relocated the gas cap for the fuel cell right here, and I will pop this trunk here in a second and show you what's going on under there. Otherwise, it is sitting on 4 coilovers. It does have 20-inch Foose wheels and tires ready to rock and roll that are pretty beefy in the back. Most of the stuff that's underneath the car is where the magic happens, especially with something like this. There is no swap kit. There is nothing. There's nothing for this car, especially for this motor. So that's where most of the crazy fabrication stuff that my dad has done is going to be shown. So I'm going to pull this car up into the air after I show you guys the trunk and see what's going on. The interior we'll go over real quick. Boom, there it is, nothing. So this did have a full interior in it, and we do still have the full interior. It's just been gutted for the time being to kind of, you know, get to everything. When you're doing a car like this, and you're going as deep as we're going, you really gotta just essentially tear the whole car down to nothing. So the interior looks a little bit of a mess right now, but we do have the rest of it all stock and brand new that we're working with. You can actually see the dash right here that we've gone through and repaired. It's a metal dash, which is awesome because you can weld it and repair it if you need to. So here that is. So this will be happening pretty soon to go back into the car. But otherwise, the interior, not a lot to go on right now. So I'm gonna pop the trunk real quick, show you what's going on under there because there's a lot of suspension stuff in there. And then we're gonna lift the car up and talk about underneath and what else is gonna make this thing work. And the trunk's open, so this is gonna be the rear of the car. This is where the fuel cell is gonna be. That's where the fuel cell always was, or the gas tank, but we've replaced it with this fuel cell, which I'll get to in a bit. Obviously, we cut the whole back of the trunk out. You can see here, this is where we've put the suspension tower to hold the coilovers, where the rear axle is and everything. So this, for now, has a ton of work left to be finished and patched up, but the fuel cell's in here. The neck comes out right here, whoop, all the way to your bumper, kind of close to stock. The license plate came down stock, and the gas went in that way, but this will look really good when it's all done. So this is the trunk of the car. We were thinking about tubbing it when we got it, but the wheel wells on this thing are honestly so freaking huge already that we decided to actually just, when we did the axle, we shortened the axle to the tires and wheels to make everything fit perfectly and get a wide enough tire that we liked. So that's kind of it for the trunk, and I'm gonna get this thing up in the air now, and we're gonna go over all the bits and pieces, what's making this thing kind of all connect together on the bottom. All right, so we've got the car in the air here. This is gonna be some pretty harsh lighting, bear with me to try to see everything. So we're gonna start from the front and we're just gonna work our way back. I'm not gonna go too into detail because I could literally spend like 2 hours going all the work we've done to this car. So if there's something that I don't cover that you guys wanna see or you wanna ask, drop it down below and I'll be sure to get back to you. So from the front back, we have a kit, kinda sorta, that we got from a company called Magforce. This, basically the kit included a suspension cradle, or a subframe I should say, with upper lower control arms, coilovers, sway bar, rack and pinion, and a 4-link in the back, which we'll get to. Now that kit was built for a 440 big block. This is obviously not a 440 big block, so we did have to kind of chop the kit up and make it work. But regardless, because of the way this car was set up stock, with torsion bars and a gearbox, almost like a pickup truck, we definitely had to get the subframe figured out in this car. So Magnum Force kit, but chopped up and Frankenstein together to be the way it is now to accept a 6.2 liter Hemi. That being said, the biggest thing we're running into is clearance issues. Obviously, this is a very tall engine, and this car does have a lot of room, but we're still trying to make sure that we get everything cleared. So we did have to get this low-profile oil pan from Steph's Fabrication for this particular engine here. Otherwise, the engine is kind of sort of stock. There's some stuff up top and some emission stuff that we're working through right now that I can go through in a different video. But we're running stock headers here, cut off right at the O2 flange. And from here back is going to be all 3-inch tubing. You've got your motor mounts right here, which you can kind of see. Get my hand out of the way. Motor mounts right here, solid mounted straight to the subframe. These have been done, I think, 3 times to get to change the motor up and down to make sure it clears the hood and everything. But where it sits now should be where it stays. This right here is a big piece. It's a bell housing that has been custom made to combine a 6.2 liter Hemi to a turbo 400 transmission. So this is a really big piece of this kind of equation because there's just not a lot of stuff that will bolt right up to this. And the stuff that does bolt up to it is super computer and PCM heavy. So we wanted something that was kind of bulletproof, really proven, super simple, and easy to work on, easy to fix, easy to make work. So we went with the Turbo 400 for this car with a low-profile oil pan, built for 1,000 horsepower by Hughes. And with that, we've got all this other goodies going on in here. So flywheel, I believe this is a stock flywheel, torque converter, and everything else that goes in it. Huge challenge to get that work kind of complete because there's just not a lot of people who have done it. So we made it work. We had a lot of really good people help us out with this, and it seems to be made it up perfectly. So only time will tell. But anyways, so we got the Turbo 400 transmission. all this whole transmission mount back here. This is where the stock torsion tubes were going, and all the keys and everything like that. Cut everything out, fully made all this out of some super thick steel to hold not only some fuel lines, but also some exhaust pipes and hold our transmission. So, drive shaft, again, built for 1,000 horsepower, fully custom length, turbo 400 front, all the way to a Ford 9-inch axle. This is built in town within a day, actually, by Arizona Drive Shafts. Those guys were really awesome. If you guys are local and need a drive shaft built, definitely check these guys out because they were super helpful. You've got a custom diff right here. I'm actually not sure on the ratio. I don't know if it's 373 or 410s or anything like that. I totally forgot to ask. So I will find that out at some point. But that's built for 1,000 horsepower as well, going into a Ford 9-inch axle. Now this axle has been just cut and mangled a ton of times to figure out the perfect length and everything. So rather than run wheel spacers and things like that, we actually put the axle into the car with the wheels and tires, and we shortened the axle where we needed it to make everything fit perfectly with no extra little pieces. So, but that's been done, super ready to go. Now this car is running a 4-link on the back with coilovers and a Watts link on the back of the differential here to keep everything straight. This 4-link was also kind of a piece from Magnum Force. We, again, picked and choosed and used some of their parts and made some of our own to get this to work. We've got these big chunks right here that are not factory that we welded in right here that kind of slip over the unibody frame. Starting again right here, we've got a big S kind of channel. If you can kind of see that right here, that welds into the frame as well so we can have some more support to hold all these extra brackets. So 4-link, kind of from Magnum Force. We cut everything and changed the location of everything to make it work for our application though. And then we've got some extra inner frame braces right here that we just custom made out of tubing, nothing crazy, to connect the front and the rear subframe. Moving on back. Here we've got our Watts link, excuse me. I've actually didn't know what these were until this build, so super cool little contraption here. Basically keeps the axle centered into the car so it's not moving around too much. As the suspension moves up, this will turn this way, whoop, and keep everything centered. As it drops down, it will rotate the opposite way. So cool little system. I've never seen it, but hey, looks pretty cool to me. We've got our coilovers right here, super adjustable, both with your collar, your spring rates, you know, your rebound and compression, stuff like that. We actually made this whole system here to move this coilover system up and down on the axle with just one big bolt. That should prove helpful to move this around as we need. We think we've got it where we want it though, but that should make for a super easy ride height adjustment. Little stuff like that. Spends a ton of time on it. So moving on back here, we do have our fuel cell, 18 gallons, fully removable from the bottom of the car to service nice and easy. And then that's kind of it. That's the end of the car. That's front to back. So those are the main puzzle pieces that get this thing to work. Turn this off. Those are the main puzzle pieces that's going to get this car together to get it to run and get it to work. So the other thing that we'll go over real quick, trying not to make this video too long, is kind of the biggest challenges we've had so far. So the first big challenge we had is the transmission tunnel in this car is not perfectly centered, which I don't know, rookie mistake maybe, but it's something you just kind of assume. So we had to change a couple of things down the line because we found out that the transmission tunnel was not the center of the car, and that's where we were basing all of our measurements off of. So yeah, one of those things where you live and you learn. That was challenge number one. Challenge number two is the motor. The Hellcat motor in this thing is, there's not a lot of people who have done this swap. There's not a lot of parts available. There's not a lot of stuff that really will mate up to this car. It's really hard to get people who have done it to get back to you and calling and emailing and messaging and things like that. So we're just gonna kind of tackle it as we can. I can tell you right now that the people who have done this swap so far, or anybody who you've seen on YouTube do this swap, more often than not, they take all of the nervous system, all the electronics, everything that already is in a Hellcat, and they just like shoehorn it into a new chassis and a new car so that everything works turnkey, ready to go, which is fine. But that's not what we wanted to do with this car. We wanted a full custom build. We wanted to get the pieces that we wanted, transmission, fuel system, the whole shebang, everything that we wanted. So That's cool, but it also has a unique set of challenges in that, you know, the computer that goes with this car is looking for all of those things that it normally talks to. It's talking to the factory transmission. It's talking to the factory fuel system. It's talking to the factory it's got all sorts of sensors in it. And this car doesn't have any of those. So that's the biggest challenge so far, is getting that kind of worked out, especially with the fuel system. These Hellcats have a fluctuating fuel pressure on purpose that basically goes anywhere from like 50 or 60 PSI all the way up to like 105. There's not a lot of fuel systems that will run that high of pressure or fluctuate like that to what this car needs, other than the factory fuel pump, which you have to use the factory gas tank for, or really, really cobble something together. So we're gonna be doing a full, unique fuel system on this with a fuel cell, fuel pump, injectors. Everything from the motor back is gonna be not Dodge and not Mopar. And that is definitely the biggest challenge we're facing with this. As I figure out more and more about that stuff, you know, I can explain a little bit more. But again, this is a super brief overview of this car. Definitely the coolest project I've done so far, and it's gonna be a really, really sweet car when it's done. If you guys like this type of stuff or you wanna see more on this car, drop a comment down below, ask any questions you want, and I'll be sure to answer them. This is not my personal project, by the way. There's no way I could afford this. This is my family's project. My dad and my mom have been working on this car for the better part of 3 years, piecing it together. So, and I've just been helping them out, filming it, as well as kind of, you know, cutting and welding with them. So if you guys have any questions, let me know, drop a comment. Make sure you subscribe and like the channel. If you guys like these build breakdowns, I definitely have some other stuff I could do, including this guy. So this is a bad little car I would love to do a build breakdown on. If that's something you guys want to see, drop me one of those. Let me know what you guys want in the next video. Appreciate you watching, and have a great rest of your day. Peace out.